Hey guys, how are you? Man, I miss you. This is nuts. So glad you're tuning in. I thought we can't leave the year and not finish our book. So remember, we're reading Among the Imposters. This one is for Miss Mathews' class. I'm going to read for about 10 minutes and then you'll have some time to respond. I'll stop every now and then and just give you some time to think. So, okay, here we go. Chapter 7. Luke saw the door one morning on the way to class. He'd barely slept the night before, so he was groggy and stupid. Remember, Luke was walking through that big building, and he saw the door and he's trying to go outside. He was shuffling along looking for a familiar classroom to duck into before the hall monitor yelled at him. Between classrooms, he stared down at his feet, too miserable to lift his head. But just as he turned a corner, someone bumped into him. Luke looked up in time to see the other boy barrel past without an apology. Then as Luke turned his head forward again, he saw it. The door was on the outside wall. Luke couldn't have said if he'd passed it 100 times before or never. It was solid wood with a brass knob like dozens of other doors in the school. It was barely even ajar. Ajar means a little bit open. But beyond it, Luke could see grass and trees and sky outdoors. He didn't think. He didn't even pause to make sure a hall monitor wasn't watching him. In a flash, Luke was out the door. Outside, Luke stood still, his back to the wall of the school. He was breathing hard. Read the note and get back inside, some tiny, rational part of his brain urged him. Before someone sees you. Remember, he still has the note from the father. Okay. But he couldn't move. It was May. The lawn ahead of him was a rich green carpet. Redbuds were blooming and lilacs. He thought he even smelled honeysuckle. His mind played a trick on him, and suddenly he was almost a whole year back in time, standing outside for what he had thought might be the last time in his entire life. The government workers were just starting to cut down the woods behind his family's house, and his mother was fearfully ordering him, "Luke, inside, now!" And when the woods were gone, Jen's house replaced it. His mind skipped ahead, and he remembered his first trip to Jen's house. He stepped outside and felt paralyzed, just like now. And he'd marveled at the feel of fresh air on his face, just like now. And he'd been in danger, just like now. Luke looked back at the school hopelessly. Anyone could easily look out a window and see him and report him. Maybe they'd just give him more of those meaningless demerits. Or maybe this would make them realize that he really wasn't Lee Grant. That his papers were forged. That by the laws of the land, he deserved to die. Strangely, Luke could see no windows. But the door was opening. Luke took off running. He raced as blindly as he had that first day, trying to keep up with Raleigh Sturgeon. Luke was crashing through the undergrowth of small woods before his mind fully registered that there was a woods. Brambles tore at his arms and legs and chest, and he kept running. He whipped willow branches out of his way. He was so frenzied, he felt like he could run forever. Then he tripped over a log and fell. Silence. Only now that he had stopped, did Luke realize... Sorry, I got to move the phone a little bit. It's kind of uncomfortable. Only now that he'd stopped, did Luke realize how much noise he'd been making. So stupid. Luke lay face down in ferns and moss and waited for someone to grab him and yell and punish him. Nothing happened. Over the pounding of his pulse, Luke could hear nothing but birdsong. After what seemed like a very long time, he cautiously raised his head. Trees formed a canopy over his head. A flash of movement caught Luke's eye, but it was only a squirrel jumping from branch to branch. Branches swayed, but only because of the wind. Slowly, Luke inched back the way he had come. Finally, he crouched, hidden by the underbrush, and spied on the school. Nobody was in sight. Luke peered at the door. It moved out again, and he stiffened, terrified. But then it moved in. In, out. In, out. So slow, it was like the school was breathing through the door. Suddenly, Luke understood. Now, you see the author here, in, out, in, out. You can kind of see the door kind of open and close, open and close. And the author's given that really great language. Remember, when you're writing, you want to write like that. You want to be able to see it in your head. Nobody had pushed the door open. It was the wind or maybe the change in air pressure as boys walked past. Luke stuck his head out a little further. He could see one whole side of the building this way, and he realized for the first time there were no windows in any part of the wall. It was solid brick up and down. How could that be? Luke thought about all the rooms he'd been in since coming to Hendricks, and it was true. He couldn't remember a single window in any of them. Even the room he shared with Jackal Boy and his minions was windowless. Why hadn't he ever noticed before? And why would someone build so many windowless rooms? Suddenly, Luke didn't care. There were no windows. Nobody was coming out of the door. He was safe. I can read the note now, he said aloud and chuckled. It was strangely thrilling to hear his own voice. Not timid, not stammering. Luke's voice, not the pretend Lee. I'm going to read it right over there, he said, speaking just for the pleasure of it, finally. He strolled deeper into the woods and sat down on the very log he'd tripped over before. Slowly, ceremoniously, he slipped the note from Jen's dad out of his pocket. Now he would know everything he needed to do. He unfolded the note, which had grown worn from all the times he'd palmed it, secretly transferring it from one pocket of one pair of pants to another. Then he stared, trying to make sense of Mr. Talbot's scrawls like a little bit of a writing, like kind of hurriedly. The note held only 2 words. Blend in. That's all Jen's dad told him was to blend in. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're done for today. I have a link for you to tell me what you're thinking. I miss you guys. Have a great time. Bye-bye.